Okay. The second one is, I think it's 2.2. 2.2 at the very beginning. Continue and expand the Food Hub Network initiative, rebuilding place-based infrastructure and local processing, etc., etc. They mentioned in the rationale that the canneries are being shut down and residents can no longer access seafood harvested in nearby waters. At the Harbor Authority lands, the SHA has just built a new ice plant. The Cantrol has built a net making facility, and we have the Organic Oceans and Skipper Otto working to open up direct marketing at that site. And I think that we need provincial support for that, and even that should be something we might even want to discuss with the federal government in the future as well. So those are two things I think that we're way ahead of everybody else on, and it's time we started telling people about it. So that's the reason, one of the reasons for the referral.
And I take it that as staff goes through this, if there are things that are not appropriate, they'll also flag that as well.
That's what I'm suggesting. We should look at what we specifically need to discuss.
All right. Councillor Green.
Thank you. I just was wondering if it would also be appropriate to ask staff to get us a meeting with Lana Popham at the UBCM.
I think that's already on the list. That's on the list of requests.
With this particular item? Resilient food systems?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure we can blend it in if we get a meeting.
If we can provide direction to staff for that, that would be great.
Seems reasonable. Councillor Day.
Yeah, what I wanted to ask, I'm looking at 1.1, which is the enhanced services and support agri-food and seafood sector. But what we don't have anything in here is environmentally what's going on with all the threats like LNG and jet fuel and everything else on the Fraser River. Do we want to link this to the previous motion that you made, that we passed, about having an overriding entity that would oversee the overall health of the Fraser?
I think staff can take that under advisement and consider a direction to staff. Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. There are a number of policies that we already have to support what Harold's doing, and I was very happy to see this on the floor. We've got a number of items and documents that we've done either directly or indirectly, and I'm wondering if staff could dig them up and pass them on to all members of council. I think it's important to know on the basis of where we are. Harold's asked staff to come up with and do some things and put things into perspective. But I think we need to really look at our whole policy and actually develop one policy as opposed to the many sub-reports and policies that have come to councils over the number of years that we've had. I mean, Harold's probably got them in his archives, but not all of us would have those. And I think it would be very worthwhile for us to have those to see where we're going. because on this, I see us as the leaders, Harold, on it. We'll be telling the province what to do and ask them to come back and support what's being done and what will be done and what the future holds for this. And obviously, we'd be a leader in this, and you're spearheading it. So I see that we should have all our materials on the table at one time.
I think that would be part of the context that they would provide for that report. And
we'll take it under advisement.
Right, they've heard the remarks, and I'm sure that would be part of it. All right, Bill, your hand is still up.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to call the question then on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
For referral. Any opposed? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, the 2020 annual tax sale options. Ivy Wong, anything to add to your report?
To the chair, no, there's nothing new to add.
My question is whether if we, let's see now, if we put off the tax sale, can it only be put off for the 12 months till the, the date next September 2021? Or could we put it off 45 days, 90 days, that kind of thing?
Through the chair, the ministerial order only allows us to defer it until next year's tax sale, which would be September 27th, 2021.
Right. And just to clarify, number one, should council choose to proceed with the tax sale in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government Act? Now, that would be if we proceed this year, right? Then you've got Correct. In the report, you've talked about distancing and how it would work. And then number two is if we defer it, then we have to bring in this bylaw and we go through a process next year or something.
Correct.
Okay. Councillor Day.
Hi, Brody. Yeah, I actually vote for option number 2 because I think this is no time to be having a tax sale. And when I read GP 16, staff did an amazing job of bringing it down to only 10 properties last year. So we're not talking a large amount of properties. So I don't think there's any harm in delaying the tax sale until 2021.
Yeah, but Ivy, clarify this. If we delay it for a year, it's going to be 300 delayed for a year, isn't it?
Through the chair, yes, correct. It could be 300 delayed through the year. However, staff will continue to contact all the property owners and will continually try to collect the outstanding taxes.
All right. Councillor Green. No, sorry, Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to staff. Now, I note on our GP 19 under financial impact, there is none, and I was just wondering, would there not be a cost to move it if we were to go ahead with the tax sale this year to the Minaroo Centre, or is it kind of like a wash?
Through the chair to Councillor McPhail, since the Minaroo Centre is our property, there is really no additional cost. We can just put up chairs, really. And staff are operating, so are working, so they can easily set up chairs for the council.
And just a follow-up. So to be clear, the delinquent taxes, you mentioned it on GP 18, would result in property owners not paying their debt to the city for 3 years. So this really is not an impact from COVID, although we do know that many people, we've heard that many people are, in financial straits due to COVID, but some of these people, this has been an ongoing issue for 3 years now.
Through the chair to Councillor McPhail, we actually have some customers who are in this every single year. So every year they will come up with enough to take their property off tax sale, and they'll be back the following year.
I mean, I do have empathy for people, but I am leaning towards option one to proceed with the tax sale. I'll wait to hear the rest of the discussion. Thank you.
Heidi, can you talk about the timing for this? Can we get closer to the time and, to the September date for the tax sale and see what it's like? Or do we have to make this decision now pretty much?
Mr. Chair, we have until August 31st to adopt a bylaw to defer if we choose to defer. So we basically don't have a lot of time to make that decision.
Right. Okay. Let's see now. Councillor Green.
Thank you. And through you to staff, I don't really understand what the financial implications are from the memo, because these are properties with taxes outstanding, but I don't really understand how much is outstanding and how much you would anticipate collecting by being able to say you need to, because you're going to tax sale and this is an issue that's been 3 years in the making. So it's not necessarily directly a result of what's happening right now.
Through the chair to Councillor Green, currently the delinquent outstanding balance is about $1.4 million. So if we go forward with a tax sale, we should be able to collect at least $1.4 million. But when you take a property to tax sale, we don't auction the property based on the delinquent balance. We will auction the property based on everything that's outstanding on the account. So for those property owners, it could be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 that we are auctioning their properties for.
Oh, what would the extra amounts be for?
Oh, it would be for their arrears balance and their delinquent balance. See, when people make a payment to their account, it first pays off the oldest outstanding balance first. So if they are able to make any payment at all, it should pay off their delinquent balance immediately, and it will leave the arrears outstanding.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, Ivy, the 1.4 that you talked to Councillor Green about, that's the taxes for, 3 years ago, right? That's not the total of all 3 years for all properties. So, and secondly, in terms of the financial impact, if we delay it for a year, the financial impact is that we lose, the cash flow. I mean, we will collect the money, I'm sure, but we lose that money for a year, right?
Mr. Chair, correct. You may not collect the full 1.4 million. However, we basically charge additional interest on the outstanding amount. So when we do collect, and we will collect, we'll be collecting more, and current interest rate is about 5.45.
All right. Councillor Steves.
Yeah, I've got a question. We went through this years ago, and quite often the tax deferral is used as a bit of a scam. We have people that, as already mentioned, will defer the taxes for 3 years, and they'll pay it off, and then they keep on deferring it, and they're actually taking the money and investing at higher rates elsewhere in some investments, and deliberately not paying their taxes. And I guess the question I've got is how many properties actually get sold and sold out from under the owners? Because even if they're sold, the owner has an opportunity to pay off the taxes and still retain their property. So does it ever happen that somebody loses a property in a tax sale, or is it we simply go through this every year to make sure that those people that are holding back on us pay up at least once every 3 years?
Through the chair to Councillor Steves, we've had a few properties change hands. Majority of the time, those properties are substantial are not desirable properties. They could be road ends or something that change hands. However, I would say 7 years ago, we actually had a townhouse change hands. That townhouse was assessed at approximately $600,000, and it changed hands. The bidder paid, I believe, $345,000 for it.
That's the only one.
But Ivy, if that person pays $300,000 for that property, they take it subject to the mortgage, don't they?
Mr. Chair, if there is a mortgage on the property, the mortgage company would have paid prior to the property going to tax sale, or they would definitely pay for it before it changes hands. Unfortunately, there are some properties with no mortgage on the property, and we are unable to locate the property owner for whatever reason. But we've gone through all the illegalities of trying to find the individual, and then we have to go to court to make sure that we get their approval to sell the property.
Okay, thank you, Ivy. Councillor Wolf.
Yes, thank you. I just have 3 questions of staff through the chair. The first one, if the tax sale were to go ahead, the location in the report here is Minru Center, but could the Oval not be an option?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, the Oval could be an option, but I think the Oval is a little too big for the auction. We're not anticipating to have hundreds of people coming to tax sale. Because in the report, we have itemized to make sure that there is sufficient social distancing. We will only accept serious bidders instead of like prior years where everybody and their family can come and watch.
Okay, great, thanks. I've never attended one, so I don't know what it would look like. So thank you for that. My next 2 short questions. In the report on page 16, you mentioned that we have 331 delinquent accounts right now. But at this time last year, what was the number at? You did list that it would be 10 properties potentially when it going to tax sale, but roughly what was the number at this point last year?
The chair to Councillor Wolf, the numbers are about the same every single year. We always start out with probably about 400 properties with delinquent balances, and we start chipping them off a little at a time. The number of 10 properties is what we aim at arriving at tax sale. Something less than 10 would be fantastic. We have in the past gone to auctions with 20, 30 properties.
Okay, thank you. And through the chair to staff, one final question is, looking through the pro-con list for option 2, the last item on the con list, page 19, talks about the fact that some might have to pay 2 years worth of delinquent taxes. I'm just curious, would it basically be double, or would it be, is it exponentially compounded and quite a bit higher than?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, if the delinquent balance is still outstanding next year, it would be this year's delinquent plus this year's arrears that they have to pay, because this year's arrears will, starting January 1st, 2021, will transfer over to delinquents. So then that means they will have to pay 2 years of outstanding taxes.
Okay,
in
great.
order to
Appreciate
take
that.
the property out of tax sale.
Thanks so much.
All right, now, given the discussion, I think there's 3 options as to what we can do. If committee wants to proceed to tax sale now, it would be the recommendation number 1. If you want to put it off for a year, it'd be number 2. But there is a 3rd option, and I'm hesitant to talk about this too much because I know we're looking forward to August. But what we could do is have staff work away diligently, which they will do, to bring down that list and have a meeting. I'm being approximate here, about we could do it remotely around the 25th or 4th or 6th of August to see what the list looks like at that time. I say all those options because from my point of view, I'm certainly alive to anybody who's suffering from COVID, and I want to help them out. But I don't want to help someone who this is just a tactic that they use, and they're always dragging their taxes. So, someone want to make a motion? Councillor Day. Your mute is on.
A motion for number 2 because I feel that staff in the past have brought it down.
Just a minute. Your motion is number 2.
Yeah.
Is it seconded?
Again.
Okay, so that's number 2 is moved and seconded.
I think one piece we haven't talked about is that, you know, we get more revenue if people don't pay their taxes. It's not a bad thing for our bottom line. I mean, at 5.45% interest, we actually come out ahead in the end. We really have nothing to lose by deferring it to 2021.
Well, who gets the 5.45% interest?
Mr. Chair, if we do not go to tax sale, the 5.45 interest is earned by the city.
Okay, but of course we have the cash flow situation. All right, I'm going to call the question on number 2. All those in favor? It is. Let's see. I'm seeing Councillor Wolf, Green, Day, and Al in favor. I'll take it. The others, all those opposed? Do you want to raise your hands? Okay, so the others are opposed. So that's defeated. So another motion? Councillor McPhail, did you want to make a motion?
I'll move option 3.
No.
Second.
Councillor McPhail. Just a minute. Councillor McPhail has the floor. Councillor McPhail, your mute is on.
I'll move option 3, Your Worship.
Second.
Okay, so option 3, to be clear, is staff will refer to staff directions to work on it, bring it back in roughly 3 weeks, so that we can have a meeting, remote meeting, before the end of August, and we'll make a final decision. All right, so that's moved and seconded. Anyone wanting to address that? Councillor Day, your hand is still up. Is that from the previous? Okay, I'll take it to the previous. No?
Yeah, well, if this is the second best option, so I'll be supporting it.
Okay, Councillor Steves?
Yes, I'm wondering if staff is doing it, if they can determine by that time if any of the properties are ones that are in default, largely because of COVID-19. It's probably unlikely because they've been in default for a couple of years already, but it may well be that there were some people that could have paid off and just simply can't do it. So maybe they can advise us at that time.
Yeah, Ivy, I think that's a really good direction, that as they whittle down the list, make sure they're keeping notes as to what reaction they're getting. You know, if someone says I'm in desperate circumstances because of COVID, let's hear about it. Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, just following along that, what Councillor Steve said earlier, how many of these people are back for the second 3-year term? And on it and have gone along with that. I think they could figure that out between now and the end of August as well. So I think that's kind of documentation we should have.
All right.
When we start off at 400, come down to 331, do these all of a sudden come out of the woodwork, or have some of them been there before, back in 2017 or 2014 or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 years. 3 years just moving along.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I see. So this is on number 3, the referral, and then we'll have the pleasure of having another meeting before the end of August. All those in favor? Okay. Those opposed? I'm not seeing anyone opposed. So that is carried. Okay. Ivy, did you need any more direction on that? That's all you need, right?
Correct.
Okay. The third one is this provincial consultation on the money laundering services. Mark Corrado, very impressive report. Did you want to say anything about it? Or Cecilia?
Through the chair, I have nothing further to add to my report, and I'm available to answer questions.
All right. Someone want to move it?
So move.
Moved in second. Okay. We'll go to Councillor Day.
You know, I was reading on GP 46 that the money service businesses have been spectacularly exploited by organized crime and money laundering. This is just shocking that it has been gone unchecked for so long. What action do you anticipate once this process is all finished?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, once the city submits its feedback, then the province will have a period of time for them to create policy. And at that point, they would create legislation potentially that could create a regulating institution. And the outcome of that could be quite impressive. As what we've seen in Quebec is more rigorous inspection method of money service businesses and more of a cooperative environment between FINTRAC, regulators, and law enforcement, in particular the RCMP and the Sécurité de Québec.
Okay, well done. Thank you.
All right, your hand's still up. Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to staff, a marvelous report. And I'm just wondering, you know, in the documentation, they talk about the Vancouver model all the time, but really Richmond was the eye of the storm. And is there any opportunity when we send this off to kind of document how the impact to our community? I mean, really, it was like a stain on our image, and I know we dealt with it very often. So just wondering if there's that opportunity, do you think, to kind of add that, to give it a bit more of a, you know, a personalization?
Through the chair to Councillor McPhail, indeed we can. In particular, there is mention in the report to the tie-in of the Vancouver model to the particularly unprecedented and tragic epidemic of the opioid crisis, and there is a connection to that as well.
Great, thank you very much.
Councillor Wolf.
Yes, thank you. Through your worship to staff, my question relates to the potential, well, we haven't seen it yet, but the transparency registry that is to be coming out later this year. Could staff just clarify, because I know it was a resolution to UBCM, and then I'm not sure if there's been any other responses from the province that I haven't picked up on. I found a few other private sites, but will money laundering businesses be included in that public registry? Or sorry, the transparency registry, which will, I believe, not be public, correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, the money service businesses, if they are part of a registry that would have land owning properties as well, would potentially be in the registry. The registry as it exists right now is just up and running. So staff can take it under consideration, research with the province to see if MSBs would be added to that list. Right now, the MSBs can be operated by numbered companies or shell companies. Whether the province has expanded that beneficial ownership registry to all corporations, I'll have to look under that and consideration, do some more research for that.
Yes, I think that's a key piece that we will need to hear about, and ideally, if that is the case, then we can respond before it kind of meets its final form or whatever it may end up being. I'll leave it at that. Thanks very much.
Councillor Al. Jack?
Do staff have an idea, you know, how long will it take for the provincial government to implement something after this round of consultation and going through the legal process of having the regulations. To be honest, I'm quite disappointed that it has been so long that this problem has been identified. And is this going to be lingering on for any further?
Through the chair to Councillor Au, it's difficult to say when the province will finalize their policy paper and then the various readings of the legislation that would follow. My understanding is it's not too far off. When I've spoken with various executive directors within the Ministry of Finance, they did state that they were very interested in hearing feedback from the City of Richmond. So there's no specific timeline on that as of yet. But typically legislation from its outset to its finish and of this nature can take a year to 2 years.
So from our reply or response to the provincial government, can we say that we would like to have this sooner than later?
Through the chair to Councillor Au, yes.
Yes, please.
All right. Anyone else? All right, the motion's on the floor then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'll take it that's carried. The one thing, I meant to mention this a minute ago, but I think, Clay Adams, I think you're on the line here. We should be having some kind of a public announcement as to what we're doing here. The fact that we're passing this and it'll go to open council tonight, but we need to amplify the message so the public may see that. All right. I think that's all for GP, so I'll have a motion to adjourn. Okay, we're now adjourned. And, okay, just that to me.